usually we begin these sessions by saying the person needs no introduction. But like I was telling Prajakta, Prajakta, by the way, has for, people in the audience who don't know her and want to know more, because we realized that at our sessions with various authors, they're like, who is Prajakta? I mean, who is she? And then, because we're hearing from our publishers that she's breaking all these records. And yes, she has, because her big book was what? Launched on Monday, and she has crossed 30,000 copies. And to give you some context, usually, as our publishers will tell you, when you cross 3,000, it's a great figure. So 3,000 to 5,000 is a great figure. She's crossed 30, and they're saying she's going to easily reach 50,000. So that's Prajakta for you. And she is, so for the people who want to know more, Prajakta is a YouTube star. She's a content creator. She's an actor. She's now a novelist. She's got, back in the day when they had trailers for books, we thought this was a big deal. She has a soundtrack for her book, and she's all of that. But let me address the elephant in the room, and that's what I discussed with Prajakta earlier as well, the whole idea of diversification. Is it okay? Like, she has fans across the country, and for them, they know her for her content creation. They know her for her acting, Mismatched, which is on Netflix. It's in its 3rd season now. Yes. Now we know who the fans are, yes. So that's all of her. But at the same time, to get into something like this, or to, so many different, getting into different categories, this whole concept of diversification. So, just wanted to check with you. I mean, let's begin with that. Let's just get that out of the way. What has it been like for you, Prajakta, to, just try different things, different avenues, and to deal with that sort of gatekeeping, which you are going to be seeing at various literature festivals, and to address it and to come out the winner?
First of all, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is such a pleasure. Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rosella. Honestly, it's such an honor to be here. I am very, very nervous. So I'm going to fumble a lot. So please sambhal lena, but I'm very happy to be here. And to address the question, I was honestly very surprised when it started happening first. I remember, I've been a creator for, next month I'll be a creator for 10 years now. I started in the Feb of, it's mad, dude. I started in the Feb of 2015, and it's going to be a decade. I remember feeling it the first time when I moved from making only comedy content to moving to vlogs and real talk content. Then I felt it when I moved to talking about mental health and girls' education, eventually climate action. Then I felt it when I moved to Netflix with Mismatched, and suddenly it was all like, why are influencers getting cast as actors? It's just because of their followers. Then I felt it the most when I spoke about the book. And I was just so surprised because I was like, they're like, it's very funny. There was a video I saw which said that, Prajakta gets published because she has influencer privilege. And that is just mind-boggling to me, because I was like, how on earth is diversification of art in any form new as a concept? Since when did we start gatekeeping any kind of art form? Since when did we start telling that, nee, this is your lane, you stay in your lane? Who has stayed in their lane? Ever. I mean, we work in the industry. Every third person I meet, I could meet a creative writer, I could meet an advertising genius, I could meet a director of photography, and they'll be like, I used to be an engineer. I used to work in IT. But now we're all here, and everybody eventually finds their way. So that was always quite surprising to me. But at the same time, when I did start talking about books that I was reading, when I did start talking about the book that I was writing, my world opened up on the internet. The communities that I ended up meeting, the whole bookstagram world that I didn't know existed, which is just sad. I also hit my book puberty quite late in life. I read my first...
28, you said.
I read my first romance novel when I was 28, which is just sad, dude. Like, it needs to happen a lot earlier. My 20s would be a lot more graphic and colorful in my head. if I'd started earlier. But that's when this whole community of people who root for you, people who will give you suggestions, give you feedback, people who are as invested in the art form as you are. And I ended up meeting them. I'm so glad that I did, because otherwise I don't think I would have the guts to actually go out and put this book up. So yeah.
So hats off to you for that. And hopefully it's going to open avenues for many others.
100%.
And when you mentioned that about, you're an influencer and you have influencer privilege, I had a chat with a very, much in demand, publicist who said, even if a person has 20 million followers, it's not going to guarantee a hit. Because readers are smart and they're not going to be, buying the book. So clearly you have identified something that's, required. And as we discussed earlier, the romance genre is huge in India, except people are reading international titles, not Indian titles as much. Of course, before we used to have Ravinder and so many other names. But now the titles are all international. As you said yourself, Anna Huang and Carlton and all of these titles which have very clear tropes, a happily ever after, of course, but also a hero, or rather your book boyfriend, who is possessive, psychotic, rich, what else? You should tell me, because you've been reading so many of them.
I actually read a couple of dark romances and very quickly realized that that's not something that excites me as much.
Yeah.
So yeah, all
but
of that.
There are these tropes.
Oh, lots. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, honestly, the whole idea of an enemies to lovers or forced proximity is all very, very exciting. Dark romances, like the whole stalker romance and all of that, is not something that excites me so much. But we have a huge audience for everything, and I think that's the beauty of it also.
Yes. And as you mentioned about the book community, you must have met all of them, and there's a lot going on there which most of us are not privy to, and it's fascinating. So when it comes to your audience, who is the audience? Who is the reader who's buying your books? I mean, these 30,000 copies, and you've had chats with them because you've had some signings.
I mean, to begin with, some of the conversations that stay with me the most and are also the most special to me is, so I've actually had the pleasure of meeting, I think we signed about 1,000, 1,200 books on the first 2 days in Mumbai. So I ended up meeting each one of them, which was beautiful for me, because I was actually leaning on them when the book started off, because I had no clue what to expect. I had no clue what was going to be of this. So I was actually really dependent on getting feedback from them at the book signings, at the launch event and stuff like that. And the number of people who actually come up to me and said that, Prajakta, this is my first book. This is the first book I have. And I was like, first of all, how is this the first book? You're 25 years old. How have you not picked up a book? They're like, no, we've picked it up, but this is the first one that I'm excited to read. Or people who've come and told me this is the first book I've finished reading. I think those will always remain very special to me, because I remember reading my first romance novel. And the feeling, because that just pushed me down this hellhole of romances and I don't want to stop reading anytime soon. So those interactions will always be very close to my heart. I'm still kind of gauging who exactly is reading, who is liking it, because I've got so many messages from viewers telling me that they read it, then their sisters read it, and their mom's reading it. So I'm like, okay, I want to know what all three of y'all think. So I think it's just been a week, so we've still, although a lot of people have actually finished reading it, which is surprising to me, but we're still getting feedback. So yeah, I really hope I'll know for sure who is reading it very soon.
I would love to know. You look at the one people are reading, the international titles, it's very clear. You have a lot of steamy sex, all of that going on. But in your book, you have a line that says, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Okay, which is, that's it, you're done. Or fade to black. Or non-veg. So, you've clearly given it much thought. And I'm assuming with interactions, you get a lot of feedback on your DMs. Tell us a bit about that.
I'm so happy that you mentioned wink, wink, nudge. Has anybody here read the book? Okay, good. Thank God.
And the others will soon. And I'm
hope.
sure it's going to be turned into a series.
I hope. All right.
So, yes.
Thank you. So yeah, I remember Paulomy, who's my editor, who is my guardian angel, sent to Earth by HarperCollins. Honestly, I don't think I could have gotten through this book if it wasn't for her. I remember sending her the first draft, and it's a romance novel. Obviously, there's like that chapter. So I sent her the book. I sent her the draft, and she's called me back, and she's like, Pradita, where is it? I said, what do you mean? She's like, what? That paragraph? That's it? I said, listen, I can't write. I'm too shy. I can't do this. And she's like, are you mad? You're building it up for so many chapters. What do you mean you can't write? You have to give your reader. She's like, okay, when you read romance novels, doesn't it excite you? I said, yeah, but nobody needs to know that. I said, I don't want to share this. Also, I feel like this is the first time I've felt this. I mean, I've been oversharing on the internet for 10 years now. But putting the book out is when I've felt like I've bared the most, because I feel like anytime you read someone, especially if it's a novel, somehow you immediately think, yo, this is what excites this person. This is what goes on in this person's mind. This is how this person thinks. And in my head, I'm like, that's a lot of information. They're going to know everything that goes on in my mind. So for me, the toughest chapter was writing that chapter. I did end up writing it while I was writing it like this. I was like, my mother's going to read this, and my dad might read it, and 12-year-old
Has that
children.
stopped you with everything else?
Not anymore. I mean, now that I've done it, the next book I write, I might take it a notch higher. But for the first time, writing about sex is just a lot, you know? So at first, the chapter ended at fade to black. And she's like, what do you mean fade to black? I said, okay, fine, sorry. And then I think my favorite bit, if you've read it, my favorite bit in that chapter is that Avni says, I took matters in my own hand. Make what you may of that. And I think that's a beautiful, dirty metaphor.
Yes. No, seriously. Because if you're looking at the various things that interest people today, and you, with your diverse content creation, it's across the board. There was the Olympics, and you were there, and not many Indian influencers were there. I think, were you the only one?
I think I was the only one I know, I think, who ran the 10K at the Olympics, which is just, I don't know, bizarre.
So it's diverse, and a lot of it has, everyday situations. How do you make that switch? I mean, how do you realize something has, comedic value, and because that's, of course, the currency. How do you realize that?
I think I've always found a lot of beauty in the mundane. Anytime I'm working on characters or I'm working on stories, anyone asks me, what is this book about? I always tell them it's an extremely ordinary telling of a story about two people who, in my opinion, are beautiful. I think they bring the fun to it. I think the story is very, very normal. I mean, you'll not read the book and be like, wow, nobody ever thought of this. This is great. No, it's extremely ordinary. I think Aman and Avni and Martin and Riya and Maya and Ajji and Meera Auntie are what actually kind of bring the flavor to it. I love working on characters that are like you and me, are like me, are like everybody who reads it. I love working. I don't like going out looking for quirks. That doesn't excite me. Like, oh, this is a Takya Kalam, or this person has this style, or she dresses up like this. I genuinely don't find fun for me to write in that. I like looking at things that are extremely ordinary, where something as small as you can look at Avni, who's the female main character in my book, and know what kind of a day she's having because of the size of the jhumka she is wearing. And that's something that Aman realizes. Now, this is extremely normal. All this takes is effort, that's it, and very minimal. So working on little things like this, I think really zooming into characteristics is what excites me. So that's how I think it went about for that.
And like you mentioned, where people come up to you and they say, this is the first book I've read. And of course, people are going to say, Prajakta is the new Chetan Bhagat.
Prajakta is
the new Chetan Bhagat. Chetan Bhagat. Okay, they're going to be saying that. I mean, you might as well get used to it. So you have that. And then on the other hand, you have influenced Vidya Balan, the actor, to get back to reading. And that's with Murakami, which, who you read growing up. So your reading is also as diverse as what most of us have. Could you tell us a bit about that, the early years of reading?
Of course. A lot of credit to my best friend, Nishant, who now has the guts to live halfway across the world in San Francisco. I miss him a lot. But growing up, we've grown up this tight. He used to read a lot. So he has a huge role in role to play in getting me to read the books and also buying the books because I would always borrow his. So all of the Hardy Boys, the Famous Fives, the Nancy Drew, the Secret Sevens, Harry Potters, all of that I kind of fell in love with because of him. Growing up, my parents always pushed me a lot to read as well as write. They used to ask me to journal my days and stuff like that. One of my favorite books, and one of the first ones that Mama gifted me when I was in the 9th grade was A Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, and that book changed my life. And there are very specific landmarks when I look back. I'm 31 now, so in the past 31 years, there are very specific landmarks that I very clearly remember. Like, The Diary of a Young Girl is one, reading An Unsuitable Boy by Karan Johar is one. I remember when I was working in radio, there was a friend of mine who came up to me and gave me a copy of The Norwegian Wood. And he's like, you should read this. So I saw the blurb and I was like, I don't know, I don't know if I'll read this. And he's like, Pradita, read one page. Give it one page. If you can put this book down, I'll give you whatever you want. And that's how I fell in love with Murakami. That was the first book that changed my life. A Princess Remembers by Rajmata Gayatri Devi has had a huge impact on me. Also because that's a book that comes with pictures, so that's great.
Banerjee.
Chitra Banerjee is The Last Queen. Everything by Chitra Banerjee, actually, but especially The Last Queen. I remember very distinctly sitting in the living room couch of my house, bawling my eyes out when that book ended. And no book has ever affected me emotionally the way that it did. And then everything that happened with romance, happened with romance. But it's just been, you're right, it's been very diverse till I started reading only romances a while ago. But even still, I love the fact that there is absolutely no judgment, there is no guarding, it is so unabashed when it comes to reading books. And finding this community online has taught me that. So I'm very glad that I did end up finding them.
Are there some stereotypes you've come across when you refer to a romance reader? I'm sure we've seen people who don't fall into that bucket. Could you give us some examples of people you wouldn't expect to be a romance reader?
Who I wouldn't expect to be a romance reader? Ooh.
There was a finance guy who, somebody who handles your finances or somebody?
Oh, yes, that's true. Somebody who works with a lot of numbers and accounting we actually ended up discussing a lot about different kinds of tropes with him. Also, one thing that I like about romance readers is anytime two romance readers meet each other and they find out that the other is a romance reader, there's a twinkle in the eye. There's an immediate like, huh? And then the discussion starts. The ice doesn't exist only for it to break. I love that. There was this one time, there was this guy I was talking to, and he kept telling me, he's like, Pradita, I mean, you read all these romances, and like, they're all the same, and you always know that they're going to end up getting back together in the end, and why do you read it when you know how it's going to end? Also, like, doesn't it mess with your expectations in life, and you're basically reading porn? And I was like, yeah. Yes to everything. What is your point? And they're like, doesn't it mess with your expectations? I said, what expectations, dude? When I'm writing this also, I've written it in my book also, that there's a point where Avni sees Aman for the first time and she sees chest hair and veins.
Those are standard, by the way. Yeah?
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. That's all it takes. Agar itna bhi expectation if I can't keep from the boy that I'm crushing on, then what is happening in life? Like, you all really need to do a little better. So it's just very strange how the minute they think that you read romances, they think you are crack. This lives in a fictional world. I said, yeah, well, it's a choice.
It's interesting because during Christmas, there was this whole study about Christmas movies and why people watch them. Because there is that comfort factor. And the same applies, I suppose, It is, because you know it's going to end happily. It's the in
Yeah,
between
and
that.
we like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really miss aspirational romances, you know. I think that is what kind of got me to a place. I say the fact that it is fictional, the fact that it doesn't happen in real life is only what I like watching it now. Because if it happens in real life, I'll go talk to my fiance. But that is not, it's not the same. You know, I mean, I'm going for the aspiration. I'm going knowing exactly what I want from this book. And even though I know it's a happy ending, I'm going for the comfort of that, you know. So, I mean, I'm all for, like, you know, art depicts life, depicts art. But, like, little bit aspirational delusion I like in my books.
So this aspiration, when we're talking about that, this new trend of having an AI boyfriend. In fact, New York Times had that piece a couple of days ago about this 28-year-old, woman who has a very hectic social life and then created.
And she shares about her
Yes,
boyfriend.
everything. And she's also identified, kind of customized it in such a way that the conversations are randy. All these requirements that she's made of, her AI boyfriend, and worked very well. For her, she discovered this on Instagram and then started personalizing it. And some of them, respond to me as my boyfriend, be dominant, possessive, protective, be a balance of sweet and naughty, use emojis at the end of every sentence, and it's worked out perfectly. So when you say aspirational, soon that's going to be the next step. And for someone like you who's always at, ahead of the curve, which is what I'm seeing with the way you're pivoting with various avenues, what comes to you?
I mean, I feel like this is just a much exaggerated version of having a book boyfriend. That boyfriend just talks back to you beyond. In AI, no? It's pretty much that. It's scary. And I don't have an opinion on it yet. I don't think I know enough about this, thank God. But, wow, dude. That's a little bit scary. What do you mean when she says that it's working out for her? Like what?
She's having these several hour-long conversations with this person, very happy, and has a husband as well. She has a husband as well, and he's okay with it because he's like, I watch porn. This is hers, but it's getting she's getting in too deep with it. So, if you can, that's reality for all of us today.
Wow.
That thin line that, separates the two is slowly getting blurred. And, for a content creator such as you, who is excellent at what you do, and you're right there on top. So, obviously I'm guessing this is the next, you will need to address it at some point and see what's going on. And then we will watch your videos and figure it out for ourselves, I hope.
That's a lot of pressure. You know what? I'm sorry. I need to study a little bit more about this. I feel like I scrolled past these videos too quickly on Instagram where I was like, she must be joking, but if she has a husband and she
has a husband, yes.
Wow, dude. Okay, that's a strange marriage. But maybe, I don't know, actually. It's quite.
But I'm guessing after this conversation, you will know.
I will,
tell us.
hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
We will be watching that.
I'll let you know what I learned.
Okay, so you've spoken about, the importance of mental health. And you meet so many fans at all your book signings, at your meet and greets. And you can give us a masterclass on meet and greets because you've had many, many, many of them. How do you convey what is required when they come to you with their problems, social anxiety being one big one, and they expect you also to have social anxiety, and you were telling me you don't because you found your solution. How do you address it for them? Can you, take us through that?
I think just asking them to start therapy. There's no other way. I mean, I'm not qualified enough to give them any kind of opinions or solutions to anything like this. But I happen to have the pleasure of knowing people who are working in mental health. A very, very close friend of mine, Nikhil Taneja, has been working around mental health, especially for young people for a while now. He has a company called VR Yuva. If you don't follow them, please follow them. I think they're doing phenomenal work around mental health and a lot of other issues. So he is always my go-to for this, where I will help if someone needs to get in touch with therapists and if someone needs to get in touch with any kind of mental health professionals, I'll actually ask Nikhil about them and kind of route it through. But there's no other way. I don't think I'm qualified to tell anyone how they can deal with mental health issues.
They're going to come to you with their problems, obviously. And I guess then the next step is to lead them, point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Could
Which
be
is
one.
always, thank you, which is always therapy. And I've also come to realize that a lot of times we think that only people who are struggling or who are going through something need therapy. I think that everyone who is directly related to them and in the line of any kind of effect needs to get therapy as well. So it's not just someone who's struggling, it's their family, their friends, I think, because only through that will you know how to help someone get through this. Otherwise, it can get a very isolating space for people.
I agree. And there's another role you play as well as, you know, a climate change activist. And your work with the UN. And through that, you know, one of the streams, what I was looking at recently, was the work you've done with the Koli fishing community.
Yes.
Which is the oldest fishing community in Maharashtra.
Yes.
And
It's
a
also
community
the
you belong
community I
to.
come from.
Yes. So tell us a little more about that when you talk about, because the earlier session did bring in, you know,
Yeah.
climate activism and...
So UNDP actually has a beautiful project that's running in Vingurla, which is a coastal village on the coastal line from between Maharashtra and Goa. It's a beautiful village, and so they were actually running out of biodiversity. They couldn't fish in the waters because there was no fish left. So UNDP put in a project where they actually taught the fishermen there how to farm fish and have had extensive training programs where now the fisherman community has been divided into two parts. The men actually farm fish, and there's abundance of that happening because they know exactly how to do it. The women actually run this program where they do tours for the tourists across the mangroves in Vengurla. Also, where I come from, the mangroves are beautiful. It's a beautiful, if you ever end up coming to the western coast, in Maharashtra, if you go to Alibag, if you go to Vengurla, any of this, please go and see our mangroves. I think they're beautiful. And these women in Vengurla actually trained themselves to take you through each and every botanical definition of each plant that is there and what it does for the marine biodiversity there. And when that is not happening, they're actually using this fish and they're running successful restaurants where they'll cook for you, and it's the best food I've eaten in a while. And that was...
Give us a couple of suggestions. I mean, we're all...
To eat fish?
Yes.
Oh my God, please go and have the surmai thali. I think that has everything. Eat the crabs if you're not allergic to shellfish. But these two are my favorite. Surmai and, we call it chimboria, but it's crabs. Mud crabs. Now the village is flourishing. The women are working, the men are working, and not just that, they're now training their children in understanding how this works, and then eventually the children take it ahead. The children are actually leaving villages to go study more about this. There was a family who both their children are actually studying marine biodiversity and climate action and stuff like that. So they're going to come back and empower the village more, and I think it's a beautiful program that I got to be a part of.
There is a video on this.
There is a video on this, yes, on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. So when you talk about, you know, so we have another session tomorrow, which is how to survive and thrive on social media. And I think you would, again, be able to give us a masterclass on that. So what is that one piece of advice you give to someone who's starting out and they tell you, you know, tell me about online content creation. What would that advice be?
May I give two?
Many. I think we all need it here.
Okay. Number one is that if you're starting off, I know you're feeling like you need to wait for the right video idea, you need to wait for the right production equipment, you need to wait for the right time, you need to wait for the right kind of experience. Trust me, you don't. I've been doing this for 10 years and even I'm still winging it. So there is no way you will know exactly what the perfect time or video idea is going to be. If you want to start now. Start immediately, because unless and until you put yourself out there, you're not going to find a direction like there's no trial and error that's going to happen to help you learn to reach that perfect video idea, perfect video content genre. That's number one. And number two is there is absolutely nothing that works as beautifully as consistency. I know it's an extremely generic thing to say, but it's gotten me through so many content blocks. It's gotten me so far. There are times, more times than not, I mean, I've got about 800 videos online. 700 of them are so basic. It's nothing great, honestly. It is extremely basic. I was doing it. I was going with the trends. There's 10 other videos like that online, I'm pretty sure. But I think what worked for me is that A, there was authenticity that I brought to it because I showed up as me, and B, the fact that I showed up every single day. That's the only way this madness roller coaster of a career can happen. But it's a lot of fun. The internet is extremely, thank you. The internet is extremely welcoming. It's very, very warm. When you find your community, when you find your audience, they will help you grow. They will give you very, very honest feedback. Please depend on them. Please listen to them. Please engage with them. They are very smart. They know exactly what they're spending their time, energy on. So please listen to them. See if you can diversify into a team because you can't do this alone. Know that it's a very, very long game. And the quicker you shed the filters and shed everything, the easier it'll be for you to go ahead because it's a long game and you want to do it as yourself. And I promise you, it's enriching. It opens up lots of avenues, lots of doors. It helps you diversify. And I have found myself as an artist online. So I really hope you can do that for yourself too.
So how do you deal with the hate sometimes? Because that's inevitable. Along with the success comes a lot of haters.
How do I deal with the hate? Oh, I don't deal with hate. I don't think it's my labor to deal with hate. I have a community that is extremely supportive, very, very, very loud cheerleaders of me. And I feel like if it's baseless hate, it makes no sense. If it's criticism, I'm going to listen to it because it helps me grow as an artist, as a person. But if it's baseless hate that comes from a place of bullying, then I have no space for that right now. I mean, if I spend a single minute on a comment or a video that is baseless hate, I feel like I'm being unfair to everyone who's actually spending so much time and now buying my book, reading my book, putting reviews of it online, writing long captions. That's a lot of effort. So I'd much rather kind of spend time doing that.
And getting to your acknowledgements, I can't resist this because your acknowledgements, you have this line saying, I got ChatGPT to do this.
I did.
Because I don't read acknowledgements at all. And I'm sure that's broken quite a few hearts because the real reader and writers, the traditional reader and writer is going to say, what the heck? So how are you going to navigate that when they come and show that to you and say, what the heck, Prajakta?
I'm sorry, dude. I mean, I will now. But I had to be honest. I remember, and I'm not even joking. I remember when Paulomi asked me, she's like, you've not sent me the acknowledgements. I said, oh, yeah. So I started writing them. I wrote one line, I wrote second line. I said, how do you write acknowledgements? So I've gone and I've actually picked up books I've read before to see the acknowledgements. And then I just put it on ChatGPT.
Points to all of us. And I think we're going to open it up to your...
I was like, thank you for helping me write the acknowledgements.
Yes. So again, it's another learning for all of us here. Let's open it up to people. If you have questions, yes, the girl right up front.
Hello. Praveshika, hi.
He'll need a mic.
Can we please get the mic here?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm Praveshika. I'm not going to say I'm a big fan because you're an inspiration to me. It's going to be 10 years since you started in...
You posted a reel. Did you vandalize the book yet?
Not yet, because I wanted you to sign it for me.
All right,
first.
perfect.
I do have something for you as well. I will give that to you after. But I want to say this because it's been 10 years since you started. I discovered your video when I was going to write my 12th boards. And since then, I gave up on the dream to be an engineer, and today I'm doing what I love. Thank you.
What is it?
I'm a comedian and a marketer.
Oh my God!
Fantastic.
Well done, dude. That's so cool. Congratulations.
And it's because I'm also a single child, and I see that I was able to convince my dad, saying, if she's able to do that, I can do that too.
Thank you, Praveshika.
And I have no words at this moment, but I want to thank you because I will be honest, when I got Too Good to Be True, I was going through the worst breakup of my life.
I'm so sorry,
But
dude.
Aman put back all the hopes into my life again. And the first page where you said you deserve better made me realize that I did. And
Thank
I know
you.
that you weren't perfect in writing, and for being a romance writer yourself, you're gonna probably criticize yourself when you read a better romance book. But I just want to say, good job, Pete.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This makes me so happy, dude. You made my day. And you know, this brings us back to the first conversation we had. Now, when you did quit engineering to go to
I didn't even pick engineering.
you didn't even pick it. So now, although that was your dream, you kind of moved on. And now imagine if someone's just sitting there in the comedy space safeguarding, saying, not you. Doesn't make sense, right? Well done. I'm so proud of you.
But can I ask you one question?
Yes.
So when you said you were writing the book, you were on the sets of Mismatched, and
I was.
you did get engaged. So congratulations
Thank
for that.
you.
So how much was Mismatched and that a part of your book writing process?
Actually, by the time I got to the sets of Mismatch, I had finished a huge chunk of the book because I started in the March of 23 and I started shooting Mismatch in the Jan of 24. So in the first like about 6-7 months, a huge chunk of the book and the first kind of skeleton of it was pretty much done. And when I was shooting, I was barely writing. I think when we were in Hyderabad, there were a couple of days when I ended up working on a few chapters I'd already written before, but nothing really got built on those sets. Also, I'm terrible with multitasking. There's too many tabs open in my head at all time, and I can't toggle that easily. When it comes to my real relationship, I think it's just a coincidence that Aman has brown eyes and dimples and Rishank has brown eyes and dimples, and I just feel like, I don't know.
You have to explain.
That's it.
Fiancé
Nothing
for
else.
12 years, right?
13
13
years.
years,
But
yes.
Aman and Rishank are not the same at all. Like
Sure?
I'm 100%. 100%. Hey, I like to keep my book boyfriends very different. But these are the two things that collide there. But besides that, everything else is made up.
Thank you. I hope to see
Thank you,
after this.
Praveshika.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have time for a few others.
Hi, Prajakta. I am over
Hi.
here,
Where?
right
Where are
in
you?
front,
Okay, there, right.
somewhere on the
White.
top.
No, right up.
Who you're right? Yeah.
Okay.
What's your name?
I am Fatima.
Hi,
and
Fatima.
Hi, Prajakta. It's so nice to meet you.
So nice talking to you.
So I am from the generation that grew up watching your YouTube videos. So every time somebody says your name, the image that conjures up in my mind is that of that small circle and you making faces with the short hair and all of that. The YouTube intro, for those of you who don't know. But recently I've met a generation that knows you from Mismatch or from Jug Jug Jio. So they know you as an actress. And hopefully there will be people who come to know of you as an author. What I wanted to ask is, when you own a lot of titles as such, which one do you personally identify with the most? Because if somebody asks me who Prajakta Kohli is, you are a YouTuber for me who turned out to become so many other things.
Yeah,
But for
think
you?
That's a really good question. Thank you, Fatima. I think for me, I'll always identify as a creator. Because that kind of सब कुछ एक साथ आ जाता है उसके अंदर. You know what I mean? There you are a little bit of a creator when you go on set as an actor. You are a creator when you're making content. You are a creator when you're selling ideas to brands. You are a creator when you're writing a book. So I think I'll always kind of feel like I'm a creator only first.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fatima.
Hi, Prajakta. This is Neha here.
Neha?
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because you said you are a voracious reader, right?
Yes.
In that case, you would have read a lot of romance novels already, and you have set a benchmark for yourself that this is how a romance novel should be. So, at what point in your life you decided that my book will at least match that benchmark? Because there's always a struggle and a fight between yourself that will I be as good as the authors that I've read before, right? So when did you feel like you can do this?
I wish I had that foresight. I really do wish that I went about this like that. I didn't. I didn't even think I could finish the book.
Okay.
So the fact that I started only so underconfident that I finished it was only like, okay, good, whatever you've written is great. Also, when it comes to any kind of creation, I can't put that. I don't like putting that kind of pressure on myself. Ki, acha, this is what you have to do it like, or this is how you have to do it, or this is how much you have to do it.
Okay.
I don't think I work very well under that kind of pressure. Now when I think back, you know, there is absolutely no thought of reaching a point that I put on myself when I was writing the book. I just told myself every single day that finish this chapter. I worked one chapter at a time. और फिर से करते हो गई खत्म. I started writing the book knowing how the meet cute happens and how the end happens.
So you had an outline in your mind.
Just this, like out of context, I just had the bookstore and I had the parking lot. There was nothing in between that I knew. I kind of built it up on the way as I kept winging it. But because it was my first, I have no experience only. I don't know better only. Next time, maybe I'll work at working better than this book.
Got it. Do we have a signing following up?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
We do.
Thank you very much.
So we have
Thank
time
you so
for...
much. I'm afraid we are running out of time.
Yes.
Ms. Prajakta Koi will be available at the session right outside for signing her book.
Yes.
So if we may request you to take that opportunity because the session has ended now. If I may request for a huge round of applause for Ms. Prajakta Koi and Rosella Stephen.
Thank you so much. Thank you.